Mabel Fuller Blodgett was an American writer. She was born in 1869 in Bangor, Maine, the daughter of Ransom Burritt Fuller, one of the founders of the Eastern Steamship Company, and Louisa White. She married attorney Edward E. Blodgett. Her first novel was the 1889 The Aspen Shade, a romance. She died in 1959. We will cover her 1897 At the Queen's Mercy. John Dering and his friend Gaston Lestrade are sitting at a fire at the interior of Africa in the rainy season. 4 months of hunting ivory had left them poor, wet and hungry, in part because Lestrade decided to be social with the local king's fourth wife. A man disrupts their misery running from some armed fan warriors, collapsing nearby after being pricked by a poisoned spear. Sagamoso, priest of the council of the walled city, asks to be buried in the way of his people, and the narrator bitterly and sarcastically refuses. But a promise of a woman and treasure gets their attention right away. A year ago, 2 white people, an old man and his daughter, came to the walled city, and the old man was killed immediately outside the gate, while the daughter was taken by the queen. It is but several moons till La the queen would dedicate the girl in a death marriage to the god Heb. And while they are there, they may as well get at the treasure of the secret storehouse of Edba. You know, while they're in the neighborhood. While on the way, Gaston falls into a pit of snakes, and Dering has to get him out. Afterwards, they arrive at a great wall of glass-like rock, from which a whole host of armed men pour out, and they are overwhelmed and borne into a temple. Agenor, the high priest, wants to torture them to death for having murdered the sacred ape from the temple. The queen then has her tiger jump on and tear one of his men to bits as her answer. Taken into the queen's palace, they are met by her handmaid Nastolba, the girl taken prisoner the dead man spoke of. She tells them Queen La had been brought into the city as a captive by the king, who was the first in generations to venture from the walled city and make war on his neighbors. A month after he married her, he was dead and she was queen. After she descended into the snake pit as the bride of the serpent and then walked out alive. Then La uses a drug to turn Gaston into a mindless, snarling beast in front of Dering for some reason, and she thinks this is a good time to declare her wish to have Dering be her mate. After Gaston is back to normal, he and Dering see the priests argue which of them will get to kill both of them, so they jump in and stab some of them for good measure, but they get overwhelmed again and are set to die. Dering is put into a cage hung up in the city, and is jeered and mocked by the people, before he is bound to a stone altar, to be eaten alive by a strange spotted white thing, the Mad Man of the Moon. Zobov, the Queen's guard, wrestles with the thing and beats it, barely, having his own head near caved in. Dering then awakens in a cavern, in the care of Hubla the Red Witch, who hid him for La. On the way to the treasure room to do some pilfering, Dering is caught by La, who, when he tells her he doesn't love her, wants to have both of them drown in a death trap out of spite. Getting both out anyway despite her intentions, he has to also defy her to free Gaston and Astolba from being a sacrifice, and in the end La gives away her kingdom by protecting him yet again. But he believes he is in love with Astolba, despite La's pleas to the mummified bodies of dead kings for Dering's love. But then there's a volcanic explosion that buries the city, and Astolba abandons Dering for Gaston, because Dering would save the queen, who is menaced by Agnos's men, but who dies anyway. After seeing Agnos squished to death, Dering goes home, becoming an old lonely man whose fondest possession is the ring given him by Queen La. Queen La herself is a bit unusual, going from cruel to swallowing her pride, while the love interest abandons Dering for someone else over her, which one did not expect.